Beneath the timeless gaze of ancient pyramids, a new monument has risen, not carved from limestone, but forged from glass, steel, and light. No royal tomb. It hides no secret chambers, and yet it may be one of the most symbolic structures in modern Egyptian history. But why would a nation already overflowing with archaeological treasures choose this very spot on the edge of the desert to build the largest archaeological museum in the world? To understand that choice, we have to look beyond architecture, towards history, geography, and the eternal dialogue between Egypt's past and its future. Because the story of the Grand Egyptian Museum isn't just about where it stands, but why it stands there. From the shadows of Khufu's pyramid to the bustling streets of modern Giza, Egypt has always balanced two worlds, the ancient and the living. And the Grand Egyptian Museum represents a bold attempt to bridge that gap, a project where archaeology meets national identity, and where the echo of pharaohs resonate in the glass walls of a new age. But once the dust of history settles, a question remains. Why here? Build such a monumental project right beside the Pyramid of Giza, a place already saturated with the weight of 4.5 millennia. The engineers, the location wasn't gamble, it was geometry. Just 2 kilometers west of Giza Plateau, the Grand Egyptian Museum stands upon the same bedrock that has supported the pyramids for over 45 centuries. In other words, the foundation is the same, and so is the symbol. Choosing this site wasn't a matter of aesthetics, but of endurance. A ground that resists time, absorbs earthquakes, and promises stability for generations to come. Of course, that decision came with a price. Building the largest archaeological museum so close to the last ancient wonder still standing comes with its own risks. The architects at Meng knew that from day one. A single miscalculation could disturb the fragile equilibrium of Giza Heritage Zone, so they turned to an advanced system known as dynamic soil stabilization, a technique that compresses and strings the ground to neutralize vibration during construction. The foundation were also mapped to avoid the groundwater roots. After more than 3 years of studies in collaboration with UNESCO and Cairo University, to deal with those risks, the solution was surprisingly elegant. The museum doesn't touch the archaeological zone. It's separated by a 2-kilometer ecological buffer. This protective zone observes vibration and shields the pyramids from any environmental impact. The goal was never to approach the pyramids, but to speak to them visually. Through the museum's vast glass facade, the pyramids appear as a part of the same composition. Not competitor, but partner in a timeless conversation. The connection between the museum and the pyramids runs deeper than engineers. Architects describe the design as a dialogue across 4,500 years, a visual exchange between eras where sharp lines of glass and concrete meet the soft weathered limestone of the ancients. The Grand Egyptian Museum is not merely building beside the pyramids, it's a connection of their idea, an echo of preeminence, reimagined for the modern age. Naturally, the next question was, why not just expand the old one? That option was in fact considered. In the early 20s, comets explored whether the old site could be expanded or reinforced. But the Khedivial Cairo district, where the museum stands, is already densely packed with historical architecture. The American University, the Egyptian Liberation Square, and early 20th century facades that can be altered without loss. Beneath it lies soft Nile clay, a type of soil unfit to support a new heavily structure. Expanding the old museum would have risked both its foundation and the heritage surrounding it. The safer and more visionary choice was not to enlarge the past, but to build a new home worthy of the civilization it represents. But behind all the engineering and planning, there was a deeper purpose. The Grand Egyptian Museum was never just about displaying more artifacts. It was about redefining how Egypt tells its own story. No longer confined behind the dusty glass cases, its treasure now exists in a space that breathes, open to light, to air, and to the gaze of the very pyramids that inspired them. Here, history isn't merely observed, it's experienced, where the ancient and the modern meet under one horizon. Of course, culture wasn't the only factor behind the choice of location. From the state's perspective, choose the location was a purely cultural decision. It was a strategic economic move. The Giza Plateau is already Egypt's crown jewel of tourism, drawing millions of visitors each year. But there was always one problem. Most tourists stay for only a few hours. A quick photo by the pyramids, a camel ride, then off to Cairo or Luxor. So the question is, what if Giza could become not just a stop, but a destination? The Grand Egyptian Museum, just a short distance from the pyramids, wasn't about convenience. It was a part of a larger vision to transport Giza into a single integrated archaeological zone, the Giza Plateau Cultural Zone. According to a 2021 report by the UN World Tourism Organization, this fusion between open-air heritage, that means the pyramids, and curated heritage, the museum, increases the average tourist stay from just 3 hours to nearly 2 full days, and boosts spending by an estimated 150% to 200%. In other words, history itself becomes a foundation for economic growth. The question led to a much bigger idea. The goal was no longer to simply display artifacts, but to create an experience. One where a visitor's day begins on the sand beneath Khufu's pyramids, continues with lunch overlooking the same plateau, and ends among a hall filled with treasures unseen for millennia. As former Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Dr. Khalid Al-Anani put it, the museum was designed to become a new anchor point for Egyptian tourism. A cultural hub where history and discovery coexist seamlessly. In that sense, the Grand Egyptian Museum isn't just a cultural landmark, it's a national investment built for longevity, an institution meant not only to attract more visitors, but to keep them longer, spend more, and engage deeper. Around the oldest wonder of the world now rises a modern ecosystem of museums, hotels, restaurants, and experiences, all orbiting the timeless gravity of the pyramids. It's not a project that displays history, it's one that invests in it. Service. It all seems practical. A modern masterpiece built with precision, vision, and purpose. But in Egypt, nothing is ever just practical. Every angle, every sight line, every shadow cast by the desert sun seems to whisper of something older, something remembered. Because between the blueprints and the stones, there may lie a second story. A story written not in ink, but in geometry, in myth, and in the shifting sand of time. In our next episode, we will ask the question few have dared to consider. Did the ancient Egyptian choose this very spot thousands of years ago? And could the Grand Egyptian Museum stand upon a sacred axis drawn by the pharaohs themselves? And now, the question is yours. Was the Grand Egyptian Museum's location chosen by modern engineers or by ancient hands that drew these lines thousands of years ago? Share your thoughts in the comments because the truth might just begin with your theory. Thanks for watching and see you next episode.